Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Carl's Christian Podcast, part two of episode 4. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast. It's a continuation of part 1, talking about vaccines and a whole bunch of other different topics. Anyways, hope you enjoy. But before we discuss this one, I want to read another one about the vaccine, and it says, let me find it. Masks will be inspected in enclosed indoor area, says vaccine ministers. So before I start, they're basically CDC saying that you don't need your vaccine. You don't need your mask if you're fully vaccinated. Then the vaccine ministers are saying you still need to wear your mask even if you do have the vaccine. And it says mask wearing will be expected in indoor enclosed spaces after July 19th, the vaccine minister says. The government has come under criticism for removing the mandatory wearing of masks, which is in the next stage of restrictions, which the prime minister, I'm guessing this is in like UK or something,
Sounds like it.
is expected to confirm on Monday. 16 health charities have urged ministers to support around 500,000 people for whom the COVID-19 vaccines may give less protection. Meanwhile, more than 120 scientists and doctors also signed a letter in The Lancet accusing the UK government of conducting a dangerous and unethical experiment and urging it to rethink the move to abandon all curbs. Continue. But yeah, that's basically it. They're saying masks will be expected in enclosed indoor areas, says vaccine the minister. And you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, obviously you just covered a lot of information.
Yeah.
And I took some notes, and before I address some of the individual things, I'm going to go down a road, and you may need to edit it out or leave it in. But the bottom line is we are in a period of time that we're in an information war. And we're being told a million different things. Now, if you watch the mainstream media, you're hearing this same basic drumbeat, which is COVID is horrible and it's going to kill us all if we don't wear masks and get vaccinated. There is an agenda in that, I believe. I believe this issue is. I believe it's deep. I believe it's political, but it's even beyond political. As a Christian, I believe it goes right down to the battle of good versus evil, Satan versus God. And I believe that's where we are. And frankly, in some ways, I'll tell you, it's an exciting time to be alive. But it's also, if without your faith, it could be a very scary time in our history right now. Yes, but we're seeing a battle, and this is all about truth and deception, and it's all about power and greed. And
I want to say something real quick. Just sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's fine.
For us as Christians, do you think it's important, that we fight back and we stand for, and we fight this as well, but also Jesus coming back relies on us as Christians. And I don't think it relies on us as Christians, but it relies on what we do. Like, if we keep on fighting it, then is that prolonging the time that Jesus is going to come? Or even if all this happens, we let the government get corrupt, we're still going to heaven. Jesus is still coming back for us. So either way, I think as a Christian, I don't want to say win-win situation, but it's like our final destination is already, I don't know the word. It's already
determined.
Yeah, determined.
Well, the word says that we really shouldn't be praying Jesus back sooner rather than later, because the day of the Lord is a terrible thing, is what the word says.
Yeah.
So I know we get so tired, we get fatigued, we get frightened when we look around and see how evil the world has become. I mean, we see death and destruction and children being destroyed, abortion increasing, the sexualization of our society, and we think, oh my goodness, this, Lord, we need you to come back. And yes, we can't wait for that day where we are all in heaven again. But I think we do need to fight. We need to fight with truth. We need to fight with bringing as many people as we can to the Lord. And because, and again, here's another rabbit trail, but I believe the word, Jesus says, only the Father knows in the day and the hour. And what I tell people, what I believe is you could look back in the Old Testament, and there are several times, I know what happened with Moses, I believe it happened with Joshua as well, that the Israelites as a whole have rebelled. And they, when it happened with Moses, they were complaining, we have no food, we have no water, even though they had been given food and they had been given water, they've been given manna, they've been given quail that fell from the sky, and yet they still turned from God again and again and again. God said, you know what, I've had enough with them, Moses. I'm going to destroy them and I'm going to start all over again with you. And Moses interceded and he said, no, for your name's sake, have mercy on these people. And like I said, I believe the same thing happened at one point with Joshua, where Joshua interceded and said, no, for your same name's sake, have mercy on these people. Otherwise, the people around are going to say, you couldn't deliver them into the promised land that you promised them. And God relented. And I think we could look at that and say, because God gives us free will, we can turn back to him collectively, and he can tarry, and he could put off judgment day. And I think there's been times when the world has been going down that road, and we have had revival and reaching back out. And I think, I think there's going to be a point in time where, when you look at biblical prophecies, there's certain things that once it gets to a certain point, then there's going to be no one going back. But I believe we're not quite there yet. I believe we still have an opportunity to have revival. And I know there's a lot of prophets saying that we are going to have a massive revival and we're going to turn back to God. And I hope that's true. I'm waiting. We're on a precipice. And if we keep going down the road where, 50 million babies have been aborted, and, we see the way our sanctity of life has deteriorated so far, I worry about it being sooner rather than later in terms of the judgment. But anyway, did I answer that question?
Yeah, you answered it.
So, do you want me to go back to
Yes,
the
sir.
videos? So, well, what I was saying as far as the battle, we've come to a place in time where we are flooded with information. We get wore out if you want to do research, you could do research 24/7, 365, and you will never run out of information. We're in the information explosion right now, but we have to seek truth, and it's so hard to find truth sometimes. You have to take a time and an effort, and if you are relying on the mainstream media, the 6 o'clock, 6:30 world news for your information, you're kidding yourself. You're not getting truth 99. There's a fraction of truth in anything that they're reporting.
The weather.
Yeah, the weather. Even then, I don't even watch the weather anymore, because half a time or more they're wrong. I look out my window and see what the sky's about to do. Now I know maybe a hurricane coming. I'll watch that, but you have to do due diligence in all areas. And regarding these specific topics, as far as, this social distancing, the mask, the vaccines, you have to do your own research. You cannot trust. And, a year ago, I was deep in Facebook. I had a huge number of friends and contacts that were relying on me to do research and to give them information. And by the time we got to past the inauguration, I had to stop because I was doing research 8 to 12 hours a day, and it was taking up a whole lot of time, and I needed to get back and spending more time with my family. But I have a lot of information. I have a lot of resources, and Carlton, you can put my email, and you could put some of these websites that I'm mentioning either now or later to get information, but you have to get information, and then you have to check that information, and then you have to check it again, and you have to consider your sources. You have to consider the credentials of the people giving you. Who are they? What are they coming from? But, for example, there's a group called the Frontline Doctors. You may or may not have heard of them, but they came out last spring. They were a group of doctors, I want to say Houston, Texas, somewhere like that, where they came out and they did a press conference. They were immediately censored. And this was along the times it had to do or was sort of related to hydroxychloroquine, which as soon as that medication has been around since somewhere in the 1950s or 1970s, it is known as a safe. I believe it was originally a treatment for malaria, but they found that it kills viruses. And the same thing with ivermectin, which is extremely inexpensive and extremely effective. And Trump had mentioned these cures. The media, and not just the media, I know this article mentions the Lancet, but they did a false research project that showed that doses of hydroxychloroquine was causing heart issues, which when you read what they actually did, they were megadosing people way beyond what the recommended treatment levels were for any viruses, and they were getting heart side effects relating to the heart. And they put that out. And from there, the media took it and said, oh, Trump's trying to kill us with hydroxychloroquine. And shortly after that, the Frontline Doctors came out and said, no, we are treating people with hydroxychloroquine, and we are having 100% cure rates. And those people were shut down on all social media. No mainstream media picked them up. And when you think about, that's what I'm talking about. This is spiritual. This is good versus evil, and that's evil. When we have a cure, a known cure. Similarly, when this first started, the very first thing I heard, and this I remember hearing it because it impacted me, was that the first and biggest comorbidity they were finding in deaths from COVID-19 was low vitamin D levels. And that hit me because I knew, because I'm a cancer survivor, I get my blood work done every year. I've been low in vitamin D for at least 3 or 4 years. So when I heard that, first thing my wife and I did is we went out and we got high quality vitamin D. And I also said zinc and high levels vitamin C will boost your immune system and perhaps prevent you, but at least it would cut down on the
The side effects.
how serious your COVID would be if you would ever get it. But anyway, as far as the individual topics that these articles, the spacing, the social distancing, there is a myriad of articles that social distancing is ineffective. Masks, the mask that 95% of people are wearing are those blue surgical masks. It says right on the box, these are not effective from protecting you from any disease. As far as the vaccines, we've already gone over the preliminary data I say preliminary, that's come out over the last year. There's side effects that frankly, I'd rather run the risk of COVID than facing a swollen heart or, and I just listed a few of the side effects. You could go online and find video after video after video of people getting horrible rashes, horrible body tremors, Guillain-Barré syndrome. The side effects that are coming from these vaccines are absolutely horrible, and the lies that our media, our government are telling us is absolutely there's unconscionable. I can't believe that we're going through this right now.
Yes, sir. Oh, this video, it goes along with what we're discussing a little bit. So we're gonna watch this real quick. Okay.
It's a sad story about Barbara. I think for people who are older, they are actually kind of in a tough position. COVID actually can cause strokes, but so can the vaccine. Whether it's actually difficult to track when you have a common side effect like a common condition like a stroke. It's actually harder to find that the vaccine causes an increased risk of it statistically than it is to find a rare side effect like myocarditis in children. We found it because it's rare in children, and you see it against that low background noise. So I think we have to be honest with people. These vaccines are still under experimental use authority, and these vaccines do have side effects. For older people, I think it is still worth the risk, but you don't bully people. You tell people, go talk with your doctor, talk over the risks, and then make your own decision. That's the right way to do public health. What we're doing now is just wrong. It's going to create vaccine hesitancy, not eliminate it.
Okay. That video, that's the most actually closest to what's actually going on that I've heard from MSN News. So I think what he said that they've got to be honest with people, tell that it's still under trial. It's not actually a vaccine. They're testing it. They're still working on it. What do you think about?
Well, yeah, for one, it was Fox. Fox does still have a few good people on it.
Well, this guy, he's probably gonna get shadow banned now. They're like, get him off there.
Yeah, it's Laura Ingraham. She is one of the better ones. But even this, I think is, while he's telling the truth, I mean, I think the truth is even more than what he's saying. From what I'm seeing by doing my own research, is that the side effects are to me, they're far worse. In fact, another side of this, which we haven't really talked about, is what are the actual numbers of COVID? And there's some things. Another thing you should look into is the number of deaths reported and where they come from. We've seen, I mean, we know that Cuomo in New York and Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan, we know now that they were sending healthy people into convalescent homes, senior homes, where there was known COVID outbreaks. And they drove death rates really well beyond what they should have been. And there are investigations going on with both of them. And I've heard that it's happened in other states that people aren't talking about yet. But
yeah, and China as well. Like China, I looked recently, they had like 80,000 cases. And they have over 1 billion people in their country, yet they have least cases in every other country, and it quote unquote originated there.
Well, and goes right to what I was saying about data, research, truth versus fiction. It is so difficult to really know. You have to look in multiple sources. But yeah, we can't trust a thing that comes out of China. I mean, And
Besides everything that's being built now comes from China.
right. But, some of the things that people need to look at is, what was the CDC saying a year ago? What was Fauci saying a year ago? A year ago, he was saying, maybe it was a little longer than a year ago when this first started, he came out and he said, oh, no, we don't need to wear masks. The CDC at first was saying, we don't need to wear masks. And now they're saying, not only do we need to wear masks, we need to get vaccinated and wear masks. WHO, another absolutely corrupt organization who Trump got us out of, but the current administration has gotten us back into, you need to go back and look for what was said at one point and what was, and we're not, some people say, well, things change. Well, we've had masks, I don't even know, is it decades or centuries? And we don't know whether a mask helps or not? No, I don't believe that.
I don't think it works because I've talked to a dentist before, and they tell you that the mask is just covering their face so it doesn't get what's in your mouth on them, but they can still smell everything that's coming out of you. They can feel your breath on them through the mask.
Right.
Especially since it's the blue mask. It's not protecting anything with that on.
Correct. And you look at Fauci, and another thing I'm hoping some of the listeners do is, because of the Freedom of Information Act, I can't remember the journalistic organization that did it, but they filed a Freedom of Information Act, and there are, I don't know the number, 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 emails that have been made public going back, I know, to the early 2000s of Fauci's emails, and it's just clear contradictions regarding masks, regarding hydroxychloroquine. He knew back in 2005, there's emails going back to 2005, that he knew for a fact that HCQ will heal SARS coronaviruses. And then we have him going in front of the world and telling the world that HCQ doesn't work, and he has emails saying that masks, they're stupid, they don't work. But now we have him telling people they should be wearing 2 masks. But anyway, I can't stress it enough. You have to do your own research. You have to double check, triple check, and if you want to put my email in the bottom of this podcast, I would be glad to answer any questions, send out resources, and I do have some websites that you could also put in here, and people can start doing their own research.
Yes, sir. We hope you have enjoyed episode 4, part 2 on Carl's Christian Podcast. If you did, then please consider subscribing and leaving a like on today's video so YouTube puts it out there. And part 3 will be uploading tomorrow at 11 a.m. EST. It'll be part 3 of episode 4 and a conclusion to our 3-part series for episode 4. And we hope you all have a blessed day. Remember, God loves you, Jesus loves you. And also check out the links in the description down below to the articles and to the websites that we talked about in today's episode. Also, if you want to email Mr. Bill Angelot, then his email's in the description down below. And send him an email. He can send you some resources that you might need or that you would like to look at. And see you all tomorrow in part 3 of episode 4 on Carl's Christian Podcast. Have a blessed day.